Hello and welcome to the BI interview. I'm Gavin Suter. I'm the editor of Business Insurance. I'm here today with Gamika Takkar, who is Director of Research in the Risk and Audit Practice at Gartner, and she's based in Delhi, India. Hello, Gamika.
Hi, Gavin. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you very much for joining us today. So Gartner recently released its latest emerging risk report. So we wanted to talk about some of the findings. Maybe we can just start off with, can you tell us what were the top emerging trends revealed by that survey, which I believe you do of risk managers, enterprise risk managers, and other risk leaders?
All right, so the top five emerging risks in Q2 point to two key themes for organizations. The first one is a volatile, low growth macroeconomic environment. And the second one is a disruptive new technology that poses significant compliance risks, rapidly growing in mainstream adoption. Now, what was interesting for Q2 for us was the first theme that we spoke about, which is the volatile, low growth macroeconomic environment. And why that's interesting is because the make of these risks is economic in nature, which is something that we haven't seen in over a year in all the Gartner quarterly reports. We've mainly seen things like political and technological risks come to the fore, but for the first time, we've seen economic risks make its headway and actually be the first three risks in our top five.
And what's the driver behind that? What's causing those concerns about economic risk?
I think there are a bunch of things, but the biggest one has to be, the shifts in US policy uncertainty and just the volatility around it. So whether it's expansion and reversals of US tariffs, whether it is tariff-driven trade decisions, or the policy volatility in just key economies beyond US as well, including European Union, and even the inflationary pressures that are coming from tariffs, all of that have basically brought all these economic risks to the fore.
You mentioned technology risk as well. What are some of the drivers behind the technology risk concerns?
Right. So for the technological risks, I think the two big ones have to be just the rapid pace of adoption that we are seeing, right? Whether it's off-the-shelf products, whether it's swift adoption of Gen AI technologies, or it's simply the unrestricted and easy access to advanced AI tools, which is making it, really lucrative for malicious actors or employees to access without proper governance in place. So if there is, weak governance policies, that's where new risks are coming to fore.
Well, it's interesting because often we focus on, the benefits of AI, but I guess there is the risk side of it as well in the potential for misuse.
Correct. There are high risks from the misuse of it, right? So whether we look into the loss of intellectual property or, there are legal compliance and reputational risks, there could also be your potential deployment slowdowns itself, because if they are built on weak data governance frameworks, that could halt IT applications. It could result in potential rollbacks if organizations are not really taking the time to do their due diligence.
Right. Now, do these concerns vary by region?
Yes, for sure. So we do have at Gartner our quarterly emerging risk benchmarking tool where basis our survey results, we look into the finer data cuts, whether it's by revenue band, industry, or region, and our clients can actually customize those findings for themselves to see which risks are top of mind for their peers.
Right, right. And obviously you do this every quarter. We hear so much about particularly things like tariffs and the uncertainty around tariffs. But even though there is that uncertainty and it may change from week to week or month to month, it's just generally the concern over not having a policy that you can predict. I mean, is that what's concerning people?
I think there are different nuances that get introduced as the environment around us is fast pacing, right? Like we are hearing new things that governments are announcing every day. And that is what is sort of factoring into those risks because organizations now more than ever need to really stay on top of guard and really need to be watching on what are some of those potential impacts for these policy changes. It may not impact every organization the same way. It may not even impact every industry the same way. But that's not to say that this is something an organization can ignore in today's day and time.
Or maybe you can take that a little bit further. What should risk leaders and risk managers be doing to prepare their organizations for these emerging risks?
Great question. So one of the things that we found as part of another Gartner survey was that most executive leaders in organizations are over-focusing on cost optimization. And while that seems to be like the best move forward, poorly planned or poorly executed cost optimization measures can actually outweigh any potential savings that an organization can have. And this is where risk leaders actually have a great role to play. So what our data shows us is that more than 50% of executive leaders find that teams like compliance, enterprise risk management can actually support in a very thorough assessment of the potential impact of these policy changes. Why I say potential is because the actual impact will get unfolded only when an organization reels under that specific policy. But in terms of preparing for it, you need to sort of leverage risk teams to make sure that you're doing scenario analysis, to make sure that you are doing a very thorough qualitative assessment to understand the level of impact that could potentially happen for your organization. And you have mitigation strategies that are prepared in advance. And you are sort of tweaking that as and when you're learning more about those risks and as they evolve.
So it's things like a company or an organization may be so focused on reducing costs or seeing the cost benefits of introducing new technology or a new policy, but the risk leaders can point out that in the long run, maybe there won't be the cost benefits they think they're going to be having because of all the other risks that they're taking on. Is that essentially it?
Absolutely correct. There could be, like just to give you an example, an organization could just simply decide to halt a strategic initiative, which could be, maybe simply deploying an AI tool or something like that, thinking that it's going to help them save money, but that might not be the best decision from the long run because of competitive disadvantage, right? So ERM can actually play a great role by helping them think through and because ERM's unique position in an organization is such that it can provide a holistic view of the organization and not a siloed functional view. It can actually help the organization get in touch with some of those functions to understand where it's best to allocate the resources and not halt some of these strategic initiatives at the get-go.
Great. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for joining us today, Gamika, and taking us through the results of the survey and sharing your insights.
Thank you, Gavin. Nice to meet you.